Welcome to an episode of Palmer Village's Palmer Voices, a personal story project preserving artifacts and diverse personal accounts of life in the villages of Palmer. Stories of ordinary people are extraordinary. The history, the stories, and the artifacts from each village over the decades are what make Palmer unique. Brought to you by the Palmer Public Library, MPAC TV, and other local organizations. Funded in part by grants from the Leo S. Walsh Foundation and the Palmer Cultural Council, a local agency, supported by the Mass Cultural Council, a state agency. We hope you enjoy this Palmer story.
I'm Lisa Gagne, here with Palmer Village's Palmer Voices. Joining me today is John Sasur. John is a lifelong resident of Palmer. John and his family have been involved with civic and recreational endeavors for many years now. John, introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is John Sasur Jr. My father's John also. Our family's been here in Three Rivers for 4 generations, starting from probably the early 1900s. My grandfather worked at the Otis Company Mills. Then my father also worked there, but then had a farm and also worked for the water department. And then I took over his position as far as working for the water department in Three Rivers. And so here we are today.
So your family is very civic-minded and involved with the town. Tell us about some of your parents' earlier projects.
Right, in the 40s, my grandfather had bought the Otis Mills ice house pond and a sawmill and probably about 100 acres. And my father acquired that. So one of his first projects was to create a swimming area and also a ice cream stand. So people could go there and have ice cream and go and swim in the pond. And so that was his first project. That was wiped out during the 55 flood because all the silt came in, silted in the pond. So there was really no more swimming. So they phased out of that. They did a few other endeavors. I think they had a Christmas tree farm. And at the same time, across the river where my grandfather actually lived, they had a 200-acre dairy farm. So he developed, and it became Sunset Acres, and developed about, I'd say, 80 to 100 houses in there. So he was working on that alongside of working on various other recreational projects. One of them comes to mind is he was very interested in the hillside there. It was very, very steep, northern exposure, kept snow year round, so he decided to maybe have a toboggan run. So he built a toboggan run, but we had neighborhood kids there. A guy came by with some skis, and my father was very intrigued by these skis. So he asked about what the technology was and what it's needed to be able to pull people up the hill. And so they visited a number of ski areas throughout New England. That's where they were able to develop a ski area with rope tows and lighting. And it's kind of sad because there was over 150 ski areas in Massachusetts back in that time period, about 1960. And there are virtually none left. There's probably 4 or 5 ski areas left. But it was quite an undertaking. That was called Hemlock Hill.
So when your family was planning Hemlock Hill, you mentioned that the family didn't have any experience at all in the ski business. So how did they start that? I mean, you mentioned that they went out places and researched different places. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Prior to actually the development of the ski area, every weekend during the winter, we would visit different ski areas that were relatively small, family-oriented areas. And my mother would take notes of various aspects and rated these different ski areas and got ideas about how to develop a ski area because they were green as heck. They'd never had skis on their feet at all, had no idea, never saw a skier before in their lives. So here again, they're going to start this huge endeavor. And it was just amazing that they would do the research, investigate all, encyclopedias, writing letters, just doing all sorts of work. My father went and bought us a pair of skis at there's a local hardware store, and it was the first time they sold a pair of skis, and so he was reluctant to sell the skis because he had to buy 6 pair for my father to buy 1, and so he was really reluctant to buy it. But then he wound up buying all 6. They all sold within a couple days, and he bought more, and those sold, and that developed into a local business called Skiing, which is now running, I think it's headquartered in Wilbraham right now, but they probably sold tens of thousands of skis in their lifetime.
You have a binder you made up of all the ski events and the process?
Yes, in that binder, details, I mean, right down to what things cost of dynamite and equipment and lighting and electrical and whatever it took, lumber, whatever it took, she would write it down into a tablet there, and so we kept that intact, and we have a little binder that's we organized all her notes, and it's impressive what some people will do to start a business. And I think if somebody had the opportunity to look at that and see the work they did prior to establishing a business. They started out blind, but they educated themselves. At times there was, on a sunny weekend during February, there would be 600-700 people either sliding, skating, or skiing, or just hanging around the snack bar and warming up by the fireplaces. So
sounds like a lot of fun. At one point, your family sent a written inquiry to the World Book Encyclopedia.
Yes, they did. My folks decided to do things with really no knowledge about it. They just thought it was an exciting idea, so they did research. But back then we didn't have Google or internet or anything like that, so she actually wrote about how to make snow. We were very, very interested in how to make snow because we had a difficult time keeping the snow on the slopes. We would actually take the snow from fields and parking lots and actually haul all the snow up to the top of spread it around, so make sure that, there was one year I think we had, I think it was 90 days of skiing. Now that's unheard of in these times. We hardly get any snow.
Now Hemlock Hill closed in the early 70s. Why were they closed?
Well, Hemlock Hill was closed because we had to make major decisions. Insurance rates were like 20 times greater. You had to pay the premium before the season even started. We wasn't sure whether or not we were going to actually have any snow, so we had to come up with that kind of money. And then the outlay of guaranteeing snow, we were thinking about snowmaking, but if you have snowmaking, we needed better lifts, we needed a bigger ski lodge, and so it turned out to be an undertaking that was over their thoughts. It was millions of dollars of investment, and so they decided, like all the other ski areas in Massachusetts, they pretty much folded up.
Yeah, that's a huge financial investment.
Certainly.
So the Palmer Historical and Cultural Councils, they held a Hemlock Hill reunion. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, that was a couple of years back, and that was a 50-year reunion. So most of the kids that were skiing with people from Palmer were probably at least 10 years old or more. So most of the people who showed up were 60 years plus. But they had fond memories of, and the camaraderie of just having a place to go during the winter months, staying nice and warm. There was nights there was 20 below, and we'd be up there on the hill skiing and things like that. Come down, get some hot chocolate and warm up by the fireplace, and then go back out. And so there was a lot of friendships made, a lot of fond memories of skiing. And what's amazing is a lot of these families, their children and grandchildren still ski because of Hemlock Hill.
It sounds like a lot of fun, a lot of camaraderie, and a lot of town spirit. There's an organization that preserves the memories of places like Hemlock Hill. I think they call it NELSAP?
NELSAP, that's New England Lost Ski Areas. If you go and you Google Lost Ski Areas of Massachusetts, you can find it. And there you have a listing of all the ski areas that existed in Massachusetts at one time or another. And you can look at Central Mass, and you'll see Hemlock Hill. And there's a little blurb about what the ski area looked like, and a few pictures and some verbiage about the people who actually partook in skiing there. When my father acquired the old swimming area and developed the ice cream stand, that whole area was probably about 100 acres. That was originally the Otis Company's ice pond. And of course, there's no refrigeration back then, so they utilized the pond to cut the ice and store it for summer use. And there was also a sawmill at that site. And what happened was that whole 100 acres was used as a woodlot for Otis Company. And on that hillside was beautiful, thick oak trees that they used to build the mills and a lot of the housing in Three Rivers. So that all came from that woodlot from which would eventually be Hemlock Hill. And then later on, 50 years later, that same hill we used all that lumber to build a lot of the buildings that were on the ski area.
Now, you were water superintendent for the Three Rivers Water District for over 40 years.
Correct. The water district's history is kind of unique in that in the town of Palmer we have 4 independent water systems. And they were all established because there was a specific need for water supply and fire protection in each one of the villages. Prior to the enactment of the water districts, the different companies that ran the mills in that specific village took care of housing, heat, water, fire protection for their mill workers. And but then when the mills folded up and there was no more demand for their product or whatever, the people were left with no fire protection or water supply. So they went to the town to ask whether or not the town would help them run a fire department and water department. They were isolated villages, so it was up to the people themselves to establish their own supply of water and their own fire departments. And it's been like that ever since. As recently as 1965, Bondsville Water District was incorporated when they had the mill fires. So historically, it's been a number of years. Each one became independent and developed their own water supply. Along with the acquiring of the assets of the Otis Company water system, at the time, there was a big section of Three Rivers that I'm aware of that was fed by a private water system. It's called Cheney Water System, and they were getting their water from up on top. It was a gravity-fed water system coming off the side of the mountain off of Calkins Road, Palmer Road, Calkins Road, and it ran across Cheneyville, what they call Cheneyville now, which was non-existent at that time. It was a baseball field, and it went across the river and it fed all the area of Three Rivers that was near the old French church area, Oak Street, Pleasant Street area, Cowash Street. So that was a private company. And that was part of the acquisition. The people voted to buy that supply of water, and that became part of the Three Rivers Water District. And I believe there was a windmill that helped drive the pressure at some point in time, but I'm not sure exactly the details of that, but I was told that helped increase the pressure because the gravity-fed system was not strong enough to take showers and things like that, so they needed some more pressure. But that was all taken care of when the village of Three Rivers built a water tower that was quite a bit higher and gave them plenty of water pressure, so that they had water pressure throughout the village for the Cheney system and for the Otis Company.
Now, the 4 towns that were affected, what were the names of the towns?
There are Bondsville, Thorndike, Palmer Center or Depot Village, and Three Rivers. Each individual village, because they didn't have that supply of water, the people had a choice. They could sink their own wells in each one of the houses and develop their own fire department, or they could have Massachusetts general laws allows districts. So they established a district through a state law, and now they're able to tax themselves and run a water department and develop it as they see fit. So they have their town meeting, and they run the fire and water district. And that's the way it is as today.
And you had to petition the Massachusetts legislature,
Correct.
right?
Correct. And so it's a legislative act to dissolve it, but then if you dissolve it, it has to go to some entity of some sort run by the town. So that process is being investigated right now. The people look at it as they develop the village themselves, the assets, and so it's kind of tough for them to say we're going to give this up and give it to the town. But I think that it's ripe here today in 2023 that I think it's time that the town consolidate all the water districts and the fire departments.
Well, it definitely sounds like a challenge. You've been fun to talk to and to get to know more about the town and your family's endeavors and your endeavors with the civic and recreational things that you've done. So thanks very much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much.
This has been another recording of Palmer Village's Palmer Voices, brought to you by the Palmer Public Library in collaboration with the Leo S. Walsh Foundation, MPAC TV, Palmer Historical and Cultural Center, Palmer Historical Commission, Palmer Cultural Council, Mass Cultural Council, and Elbow Plantation Historical Society. To become a part of tomorrow's History Today, contact the Palmer Public Library to share your Palmer story. If you know someone whose story should be preserved, we'd love to hear about it. For more information, visit our website at palmerlibrary.org/palmervoices.